Good night, everyone. We are from group 1, and tonight we are going to show you our critical journal review, and our topic is accent. And this is our group member. First is me. My name is Helma Deliana, and my group member is Miftahul Khairiah and Putri Hasanah. But we are very sorry because Putri cannot join us in this Zoom because she have something important she need to do. So first, I'm going to explain about our main journal. The first is, the title is Listening Between the Lines, Social Assumptions Around Foreign Accent. The author from this journal is Catriona Fraser and Barbara F. Kelly from University of Melbourne. This journal was published in 2012. Background of research. Um, Research has established that a range of factors can affect listeners' perceptions regarding to the strains of a foreign accent, including the attitudes of the listener. This study aims to examine if listener attitude plays a role in the comprehensibility of foreign or non-Australian accented speech. Perhaps it is time to turn to the role of the listener and look at individual listener characteristic and how they may impede communication. Next is the problem of research. The previous research showed that accent itself does not necessarily impede communication, and this journal leads us again to question what the salient factors are that serve as barrier in native speakers or non-native speakers communication. Next is the methodology. This study used a web-based data collection process. Participants filled in surveys, complete transcription tasks, and made judgment and comments regarding the speaker. The participants for this study were native English speakers and native Spanish speakers. The participants listened to recording of ESL speakers and rate their intelligibility, pronunciation, grammar, intonation, frequency of wrong words, and voice quality. This was all done in www.whowhyhow.com. They then listened to pre-recorded sentence spoken by three women with different accents. One is Australian born, one Vietnamese born, and one is Chinese born. After listening to each speaker, participants were required to rate on a 5-point scale the speaker's English skills and also the strength of their accent and how easy they found the speaker to understand. They were also asked to describe the speaker in their own words and give the opportunity to add further comments. As the first speaker has an Australian accent and participants were Australian residents who spoke English at home, it was assumed that this would be the most familiar or recognizable accent. Scoring of In the data analysis, scoring of the participant from first speaker indicate the general listening ability of the individual participant. First is there is a positive listener, participant who scores 6 and above in their score, and then negative listener, participant who score below 6. Grouping participants in this way help to ensure that the results from the data analysis are based on reason or of attitude or familiarity and not another random variable. Next is the research finding and discussion. A participant correctly identify the language background of all three speakers and goes on to make quite specific assumptions regarding the speaker. Around 8% of the positive attitude group and 17% of the negative attitude group described the first Australian born was educated, well educated, or tertiary educated. 10% of the negative attitude group speculate that the second speaker was educated, but no one in the negative attitude group voiced such assumptions about the third speaker.
And now I will explain about the comparison journal. There are two comparison journals, but I will explain the first journal. The title of the journal is The Effects of Speaker's Accent on Listening Comprehension Tests. The author of the journal is Burçin Kagitçi Yıldız from Middle East Technical University, Ankara, Turkey. The journal published on 2017. First, the background of research. Today, there is a tendency towards including more varieties in the materials covered in the preparatory schools, but most of the students are unfamiliar with many accents when they come to the university due to the lack of access or exposure, which could cause a problem during their departmental or postgraduate studies when instructed by academics from different language backgrounds. This study was conducted with the purpose of investigating whether the speaker's accent affects students' performance on listening comprehension tests, and if yes, which accent, native speakers or non-native, leads to higher or lower level of comprehension. B. The problem of research. First, does the speaker's accent affect students' performance on listening comprehension tests? And if yes, which accent, native speakers or non-native speakers, leads to a higher or lower level of comprehension? And the third is, what are students' perceptions about accentedness? The methodology. The participants of this study were 6 English teachers, both native and non-native speakers. There were 3 NES teachers agreeing to help with the recordings. 1 American, 1 Australian, and 1 British. And there were 3 NES teachers, 1 Turkish, 1 Russian, and 1 African. The students were selected based on the class average on the listening score of their last midterm exam, so that their proficiency levels would not have an important effect on the test performance. Therefore, 6 classes were determined with close test scores in the exam, and they were asked whether they would like to take part in a research study, and the experiment was carried out with the ones who agreed and were present in class at the time of the listening exercise. In order to find out whether the student's comprehension is affected positively or negatively by the speaker's accent, 6 NES and NES teachers agreed to record the text provided by the researcher. The selection of the text was performed taking many factors into account, such as the student's level of English proficiency, the familiarity of the test type, the reliability of the text, and the length of the text. And for this study, only the text part was utilized, and 12 short texts with 3 multiple choice type questions each were selected from various exercises. The texts were advertisements, weather reports, news, recorded announcements, special announcements, and business announcements. And the second data collection instrument for the study was a questionnaire, which was given to the students once the listening test was over. The questionnaire consisted of 30 items in total, 13 items with a 5-point Likert scale, 3 open-ended questions, and 14 background questions. The questionnaire was given to the students in English as the sentences were simple enough for the level to understand the items. It took about 15 minutes for the students to answer all the questions. Next is data analyzing. Since there are 6 groups in the study with a total of 107 participants, and the data were observed to be normally distributed after conducting the tests of normality, the researcher decided to use ANOVA, which would also reveal the differences between groups with the post hoc tests. Moreover, qualitative data analysis method was also made use of so as to analyze the students' answers for the open-ended questions at the end of the questionnaire. And the last is research finding and discussion. With some texts in this study, students performed better while listening to native speakers, and with others, the test scores were higher when the speaker was a non-native speaker of English. Therefore, it can be said that students' familiarity with the accent does not have an important effect on their comprehension. Second, the analysis of the questionnaires revealed that students are more inclined to hearing native speaker accents and having NES teachers, as they believe they can contribute more to their language improvement as well as providing them with socio-cultural input about the target community. And most of the students thought that their comprehension was affected negatively because of hearing unfamiliar accents, which they state to be the non-native accents in this case. However, the results of this study show that students can comprehend native and non-native speakers equally when the other factors are appropriate for their understanding, such as the proficiency level of the students, the difficulty level of the text, and the speech rate of the speakers.
Okay, so next we are going to take Putri's part to read the second comparison journal, and I'm going to start first. The title of the second comparison journal is Should We Use American English to Improve Student Listening Skills? The author is Seljuk University School of Foreign Language, doctoral candidate at Hacettepe University. This journal was published in 2009. First, the background of research. The shift in pronunciation teaching altered the EFL speaker model or native speaker to competent bilingual speakers with an intelligible accent. Although intelligibility seems to be a plausible criterion, it is still controversial who is intelligible to whom. Therefore, it can be inferred that intelligibility is still measured through the native speaker taken as the model. Next, the problem of research. Can American English help improve student listening skills? The methodology. 40 students from two different elementary classes at Seljuk University Prep School were assigned to British and American group, each group having 20 students in the same class. They were elementary level students, 14 of whom were males and 6 of whom were females in the British group, and 12 of whom were males and 8 of whom were females in the American group. Both groups were given the pre-test in American and British English. The American version of the task were created with the help of two native speakers of American English working as language instructors who read the, the LTE tape scripts in the studios of Seljuk University Radio. It was found out that there was no significant difference between American and British pretests, neither in terms of groups nor in terms of accents. Next is data analyzing. The first step in the data analysis involves calculating the number of students correct answer to the questions given in the pretest. Since both pretests involved 20 questions, each correct answer was given 1 point. Therefore, the maximum score on the pretest was 20 points. The post tests were also graded in the same way since they included the same level in the listening comprehension test, as some students did not come to class on the post-test day. There were some missing data, and this was compensated by calculating the raw scores of the pre-test first, after which the mean and standard deviation of the post-test were calculated. Next, we'll explain by Miftah.
And I will explain the research finding and discussion. The finding that both American English and British English groups improved their scores on both GA and RP post-tests can partially answer the question if instruction in either of these two accents improves listening comprehension. As American English is spoken by most native speakers in number, and just as it is becoming more widespread in the world, choosing American English for EFL purposes would be more advantageous, which is in line with the findings of this study. And the last is our conclusion. The major conclusion reached by Munro and Derwing was that foreign accent is not necessarily a barrier to communication, but it increased processing time may influence listeners to judge an accent as less comprehensible. Munro and Derwing have raised many interesting points with this study. Firstly, accent does not necessarily impede communication. So, if accent isn't impeding intelligibility, we return again to the question of why non-native speaker communication is impeded. Also, the relationship between accent and comprehensibility varies greatly across individual listeners, which suggests that individual listener characteristics are affecting this judgment.
So I think that's all from our group one. And we're very sorry if there's any mistake, and thank you.